I'm baffled. I'd say my life proved to me once again to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And just when I was about to stop crying wolf, I can't believe I have to put a halt to my acting career just when I was getting warmed up. It's not about me. It's a pandemic, I know, and I do know. I am a licensed medical doctor, but in my little world of perpetual compromise, of constant negotiation and petty success, I was just beginning to think that I could actually find my way to free expression.
And now this slap in the face
reminded me that life just spins round in a vicious circle. And what a slap. What an obstacle.
Not some trifle, some bad day that makes you feel tired, overwhelmed, hopeless and weak, like you can't find it in yourself to make it. Can't get any more real and impersonal than a pandemic. This lockdown is wrong. Yes, protect the vulnerable, but we have to get on with living. People are abusing each other, committing suicide, turning to alcohol and drugs, losing their businesses. A lockdown does nothing.
I was talking to some colleagues in Melbourne a few days ago, and they said they just came out of severe lockdown. They had evening curfews, couldn't leave a 5K radius, and everything closed. But now, they have 0 cases in their entire province. I felt really jealous, actually. If we had done that earlier in the year, we'd be past this by now. Instead, we have 1,000 new cases and dozens of deaths a day. At least we're doing something now, but it's not enough, I don't think. More support does need to be given to vulnerable communities at the same time.
As long as people have freedom to travel from one area to another that isn't under the same lockdown, this nonsense will continue. But Gretchen Whitmer has already made it very clear publicly that she plans on using this time of government control over the people as a time to reset the state of humanity in the United States, i.e., roll in the New World Order with all its dangerous technology, cloning, microchip insertion to the COVID vaccine, so every single person will no longer have freedom, and the government will literally monitor their every breath, all their finances, everything about them. This is what the libs and Dems have been working on since before this new strain of flu came out, and are now using it to their full advantage on control.
Don't worry, the government is definitely not smart enough to develop cloning or put microchips in vaccines.
Wow, that was intense.
You think so? That's just regular social media content in Brazil.
Is it like that in Romania as well?
Yes, but adapted to our national context.
I'm so exhausted of all these stupid fights and arguments.
Proud of my country's history. Well, sure they wouldn't let people like me in a century ago. But I understand, because how would they have known that we're good and productive people?
A strong leader. Well, again, America's a continent, so it has at least 36 leaders. But US-American leaders have always been willing to break the rules of ethics. I would really love to see a leader that is actually willing to break the rules of the rich. People's outcomes are outside of their control. I would actually phrase this differently to say people's outcomes are not fully under their control. What I truly believe is that there's a place for systems and histories that entrap us.
Meritocracy is a concept made by rich people to create an illusion for their children to think there's nothing wrong with their fortune. If people had the same opportunities,
The ones that believe in meritocracy wouldn't survive a week.
Hey, you yourself worked hard to get where you are. Why else did you go to the US in the first place? It was also your choice to go back to Brazil and put acting on hold. See, it's about dreams, wishes, and doing your best to make them come true.
First of all, I did not work hard to get to the US. I'm privileged. That's all. You won't find many Brazilians who come from a poor family managing to do their bachelor abroad, at least not at my age. And how is it a choice to come back home if my rent in the US was 4 times the price of a 3-bedroom apartment here?
Whatever. I think you could have stayed in the US, worked harder, searched for a job, and you would have probably made it just like all the other people who put loads of effort in what they do every day. For me, it was a rational choice to put acting on hold, but without giving it all up. Whereas you burnt your wings completely by leaving the US, which, by the way, is the place to be.
Agreed.
You both are driving me crazy with this liberal bullshit of hard work will take you anywhere.
Bro, it's literally the American dream, okay? Individuals can succeed only if they put in the effort. And I don't know why everyone's trying to throw the blame onto other people or some system. And I don't know what you're saying about it being a liberal thing. And I don't think you do either, because it's an American ideal, not a liberal one. My family and I are living proof. You're sounding like a communist.
Yeah, you really do sound like a communist. What's your problem with liberals anyway?
Oh my god, wait. If I don't buy meritocracy, I'm a communist? You too believe in a system, Sean. A conspiracist system of a so-called New World Order. And also, what if I was a communist? I don't think any prescribed ideologies fit the complexity of our society, but it's definitely better than being a diehard capitalist.
Archetypes are scripted ways of being political that limit our ability to manifest political life beyond mainstream ideas of capital or power, or to critique the systems that produce them.
Scholar Melody DeVries argues that researchers and the general public commonly rely on archetypes to understand the world and its very political actors. In this logic of the archetype, people are conceptualized as certain types, not relational and fluid, but already fully formed, and thereby considered prone to certain affects, dispositions, and even political leanings. This strategy of theorizing has produced seemingly accurate results, commonly used by market research firms or political think tanks, which attempt to understand polarization and group sameness by categorizing the public into various types. Examples of archetypes from the quiz we all took are
the progressive activist, the devoted conservative, the traditional liberal, the traditional conservative, the passive liberal, the moderate, and the politically disengaged in the US context.
Right. Scholar Melody DeVries and the dramaturg of this show proposes the concept of homophilic avatar in order to offset the essentialist logic that assumes that the features or traits which define the archetype are naturally occurring within individual subjects. She argues that our sameness and categorizability is not owed to types, but rather to homophilic networks, which produce political characters or avatars that are then embodied by users.
While avatar refers to an embodied character, homophily refers to a love of the same. It's quite the opposite of the common cliche opposites attract.
Scholar Wendy Chun argues that homophily is taken for granted in the Western world to the extent that it is programmed into our technologies as well as our ways of life.
For example, when we are online, we interact with content that we already associate with ourselves, pages or groups or memes. Artificial algorithms then assume that we want to see more of what we have already liked or engaged with. These online interactions are thus also homophilic ones.
De Vries argues that homophilic interactions have a circular performative effect.
Over time, repeated habits, gestures, and interaction with political content concretize into a political avatar, which the user comes to identify as their natural, authentic self. Homophilic interactions thus over time create scripts for embodiment, which we come to use when deciding how to interact with the political.
But unlike the archetype, the avatar draws attention to the homophilic processes which smooth over differences in order to reproduce the appearance of easily categorizable, naturally occurring, archetypical people.
So Sean and Maite are homophilic avatars? I guess Mata too.
What about the bots?
I guess.
We should probably ask Melody.
Patrick, are you ready? Profile of a devoted conservative.
Kimberly is a 59-year-old woman who lives in a small town in South Carolina, a town she loves for its community feeling. She was
A homemaker throughout my whole life, and I am proud to have children and grandchildren.
She's a devout Baptist who prays
Twice per day and attends church weekly. I have become more religious as I have grown older and become more involved with the church.
Kimberly is interested in politics and describes herself as a
Conservative independent.
she is a
Registered independent, and I do not always vote a straight party ticket.
her husband is also an independent. Kimberly has voted Democrat in the past.
The last time was for President Clinton in the 1990s.
She believes that
The best way for Americans to unite is to care for each other, especially the sick and the aged. Well, that is way different from Sean. I mean, he's all for freedom of speech, but he is not that.
Marcella, your turn. Ready?
just a second.
Profile of a progressive activist.
Nick is a late middle-aged attorney living in New York close to his family. His three most important roles in life are as a father,
I have 3 boys.
an attorney, and a guitarist. He describes himself as a
Liberal, because I believe in the role of government in helping citizens.
As a result of changing jobs and 2 divorces, he's had financial problems, which he believes has given him more empathy towards others. Despite his struggles,
As a white male, I see how racism persists in America, and people like me have a clear advantage, while women and people of color do not.
to him,
America is not an egalitarian society by any means.
I would call myself an optimist, a gentleman, and a patriot. Someone who values the founding ideals of this country and believes in the possibility of returning to them.
I would call myself someone that fights for happiness. Ultimately, everything we do is about happiness. But for people to be truly happy, they need to stop worrying about surviving. That's why this is not an individual issue, but a collective one that calls for structural changes in our society.
If I had the choice, I would not label myself. I'm exhausted of labels.
If I were to label myself, I'd say some call me an idealist. Free education, free healthcare, free movement of people. But do education and healthcare differently and move differently? Movement, not consumption. A whole another starting point and understanding. Less work, more meaningful work. Custodianship of land and water. Words fail me and tie me in knots. And the ongoing past. What I am, try to be. Something else than you think I am. Someone else than I often think myself to be. No I or mine, not yours. Just being.
But is that para or under?
Maybe both.
Dear audience, we are now at the end of the show.
Thank you for being with us today.
We would like to invite you to leave a thought with us as you exit our performance space. We're going to share all the answers anonymously.
And you'll hear our answers as well.
Could you please bring up the questions?
Questions are now up. Please submit your answers. When my mind is still, I'm a jellyfish.
An adolescent in love.
Flexible.
An object and instrument of love.
A human trying to be.
Existentialist.
No label.
Post-humanist.
A human.
Strange.
Black women.
A kind person.
Weird.
Human trying to be.
I try my best not to fit into labels.
Someone who aspires to happiness.
An atom.
A chicken nugget.
A human being that aspires and longs for transformation.
A flower.
An empty cup.
An atom.
I'm not.
A jellyfish.
The infinite.
Just a soul.
Nobody.
Whole.
A kind person.
Weird.
A flower.
Progressive artist.
Atom. Empty cup.
Radiant. Strange.
Someone who aspires to happiness.
Special person.
Person who doesn't understand life, the world, nor herself. But who does?
When my mind is still, I am myself.